Vorti versus Vinny. Let's go. That's a mirror time. Oh no, he said the mirror word. That means it's a bad. No. Calm down, folks. Abbasid mirrors are fun. I actually think most mirrors have kind of got fun again. If you think back to when the game first came out, everyone and their mum, that's right, your mum as well, was enjoying their mirrors. You got Dry Arabia, you picked the French. You got Hillendale, you picked the HRE. Everyone was just copycat. But now people, they got to be so different. Differing opinions on what's best where, which I love to see. So it actually makes it a bit more refreshing when every once in a while they stick their Spider-Man outfits on and come out the same. But these guys, these are not the same. They've had different trajectories because in the South, playing as the purple, as he always does, it's going to be Vinny Boy. Good old Winchester, an AoE2 veteran. Very talented player in that scene. In the North, a veteran dating back just as long. He's got a long painted career. VortiX, playing under the name Anuit Copetus as the Orange Abbasses. This is a guy who has a history in Warcraft, Starcraft. He's been around for many years, earned a lot of money doing what he does best, smashing in the RTSs. So let's see if he's going to smash or be smushed here. Because Vinny, I'm kind of intrigued to see what he's got in mind. This is definitely the right civ to be practicing. I think the Abbasids is very ban-worthy at the moment, actually. Especially against more advanced players. I think when you're talking about players that are still getting to grips with the game, so if we're talking about Winchester's situation when he gets into the Road to Warlow, likely you'll see people prioritize bans such as the Rus or French against him. Where I think that's going to change is once he proves himself the Abbasids. I actually think when you're talking about more established players, the Abbasids and HRE are probably the more go-to bans against your beasties, puppy paws, your established players. Just because they are very dominant civs on certain maps or very good generic civs, especially the Abbasids that I'd say at this point, it would be very fair to say you could play the Abbasids anywhere. Pretty much anywhere. There's maybe one or two maps where someone will look at you with a tilted head like a confused puppy. But for the most, if you pick the Abbasids, people are the shrug. They're not too surprised. It looks like both these players are going to have similar tech up timing. Something to keep in mind, by the way, is that Winchester's going to want to be the aggressor here. But it might be difficult. The reason is if you look at the spawn, these spawns were not created equally. There is no denying that VortiX has a much better spawn. Double berry stack, double deer stack. This is absurdly good. Not to mention the triple tree line. Oh my lord. This is some nasty RNG right now. Meanwhile, Winchester, what's he got? Well, plus side, he has at least got deer against the side of the map, which gives him a nice defendable location. And he's got deers and berries next to each other, next to some small choke points. This would rate as an okay Abbasid spawn. This, on the other hand, is VortiX. Why does your dad keep working at Microsoft and giving good spawns, please? Like, this is absurd. This actually might be the single best Abbasid spawn I've seen. I can't think of a single time, at least in recent memory, like last several weeks, where I've seen an Abbasid play on Dry Arabia get such a good opening. Wow. And that's why I said Winchester needs to be on the aggressive, because I think that VortiX is very likely to go greedy with this format. There's just too much value here, and there's too many easily defendable locations to not try for it. If Winchester does choose to be the aggressor, very important detail though, don't just do Horseman Camel Archers. Horseman Camel Archers seem good until you realize you have no way of diving, and you have no way of killing extension TCs, because remember, let's say you come in and you try to torch down the secondary TC with Horseman, there's 5 fire armor there, because they'll be influenced by the House of Wisdom. And yes, you are right, Winchester does have his resource in the back, which is also why I'm pleading for aggression here. I think he has more naturally defended resources, whereas VortiX has reasons to play out forward or to the side of his base, which should expose him. This is probably the most exposed point he's going to have by default, of course. Moving out east side for the stone. Wouldn't be surprised if he hangs around for the free TC. He'll have to be careful about scouting vision, though, because Winchester does have eyeballs on. And Vinny only went for 1 scout. In fact, they both did. Both hesitant about falling behind in the villager race. So, Interesting thing being pointed out about the upgrade between sheep versus berries being negligible. Yes, but the difference is that sheep will still feel better just because afterwards your eco continues to boom for a little bit. And also, you set up the mill earlier, usually end up with wheelbarrow ahead of your opponent. In this case, it looks like VortiX actually beat to the punchline, surprisingly enough. But most of the time, I do favor sheep, especially if you're up against a civ that can show some aggression. Simply get, not sheep, sorry, against berries, on berries, because if you're up against a civ that can show some aggression, it's better to get rid of the dangerous resource first and then fall back to the safety of sheep. It's just a more logical format. The exception to this rule is usually the Mongols. A lot of Abbasid players don't even like setting up a mill initially because of the risk of you losing the mill and paying your opponent. Looks like it's going to be extension TC right side by Vinchester. I expected at least one. And wow, this was unexpected by VortiX. He sets up the first TC right side. This is probably because he wants to secure the stone for the additionals. And he knows that, and it's actually a really cool play by VortiX, because what you have to keep in mind is, like, we can see that Winchester has no intent to be aggressive. But the reason why he's doing this is if you actually look at the spawn for VortiX, stone is not easily accessible, or rather not easily defendable. Also, setting up this TC kind of covers his flank, and then he can focus all attention west side. So this way, he makes sure he gets enough stone. And I wouldn't be surprised if VortiX is considering an insanely greedy, but could be effective 4 TCs. Especially when you look on the other side, and Winchester, so far, is not setting up any aggression whatsoever. In fact, I'm wondering what Winchester's plan is. It looks like with 8 people on gold, he's going for a Castle's rush. I think this is dangerous. If your Castle's rushing, like, your format of troops needs to be slow moving. And if VortiX is going for like a 4 TC boom, I actually think the timings work against you as the Castle's rusher here. Just because of how favorable the spawn is, so it's easy to defend. And there we go. Third TC is going to be coming out. Stone still being gathered. VortiX is going for the 4 TC build. It's going to be scouted out by Winchester, but there's very little he can do to stop this. Expect the 4th TC, north side here, to cover the other entrance. This is a brilliant read by VortiX. He has a defensive point on every entry point to his territory. Winchester is just making it better and better for him because he's gone back for another TC. Wow. Wait. What was he missing the gold for? It's not wheelbarrow. It's not... Okay, he's gone back to work. Okay, so he just hadn't dropped off yet. So he is gathering for the quick castle now. He's going to stop at 3. I expect VortiX to go 4 and stop as well. 5 is too greedy here. He just doesn't have enough safe eco. So the issue with going 5 TCs here, you can argue there's a lot of room for farms back here, but there's not much wood secured. VortiX would only go 5 TCs in this situation if he had a second tree line on the backside. Even then, it's way too greedy. 4 is definitely the high end. I think sometimes when you see people go for the 5 TCs, 6 TCs, 7 TCs, because the other Abbasid player keeps doing more, it just feels bad. It becomes a reactionary element of gameplay instead of a productive one. And what you're doing is essentially just slowing down your own timings and probably staying one step behind your opponent. And this format will allow Winchester to get a quicker castle. I'm just struggling to see the value of having a quicker castle in this game. He's going to prep for the Lancers. But if his plan is to go mass cavalry, he's not going to be in position to breach the base. In fact, I'm pretty sure VortiX can just wall this off and prevent any harassment. And he'll have enough additional villages to do so. Vinny. I really would like to see him prep some slower moving units. Just because I think it's going to be critical to build siege when you reach the other side. And yeah, VortiX is already looking to slow down the game. This is my concern. With such an easily defendable location, Winchester should know by scouting the base that he can't easily breach. Yet he's still relying on cavalry. It's going to be very difficult. Walls can at least be intercepted here, but keep in mind Vorti is getting into the spearmen, so he'll have the answer to the first few horsemen. The tech up has only just started for Winchester, so a long way away from the heavily armored boys that could more easily threaten spears. Means that 1 or 2 spears here should be enough to get the walls up without the horsemen stopping the villagers. VortiX will now see that horseman, so he'll be able to react to it. Unfortunate situation for Winchester. Looks like for now he's going to get 3 hits in, but VortiX should be able to protect this. And my concern is with these walls now going up, you've kind of revealed a big part of your plan here. You reveal the Horseman, so now your opponent knows that you're going to be going towards Lancers because he's seen so few troops. This suggests a very clear castle up. And considering that VortiX probably scouted this out more recently, he should... Whoa, no. VortiX... Okay, so VortiX is playing this blind now. He lost his scout. But it's still the correct way of addressing this. You get the walls up, you condense yourself in. Now Winchester, the awkward part is he's built 2 stables that feel irrelevant. I like that he's adding in the racks because I think the way you win this game is if you can get siege outside your opponent's base. Spearman in the meantime are going to go scouting. In fact, looks like they're going to have to react to the attempt to breach. But tech up now underway for VortiX. Keep in mind that Winchester is going to have about 1 minute and 20 seconds advantage here. Problem is, it doesn't actually convert to much. Because now your opponent's walled yourself in. Your only option really is to go slow-moving mass melee units. The issue with this is that by the time you arrive in your opponent's base, his tech up is complete, and he's also pushing units. So what this causes is this kind of misbalanced situation where despite the fact Winchester gets about 1 minute advantage plus on tech up, by the time he's in a position to leverage that tech up advantage, VortiX is going to have comparable numbers. At least militarily. Economically, he's already building a lead, remember, because he did go for those 4 TCs. And also, he was kind of reasonable where he placed the Palisades. He'd done so in such a way that he's got a lot of wood to work with. This is going to allow VortiX to transition to farms with limited pressure on him. And Winchester... There's no way. Is Winchester going to try... No. This is just him like finding ways of spending the resources. There's no way. He's floating a lot of resources. Don't panic, folks. This is not an Imperial Age Abbasid rush. Not really something you ever want to be saying or doing. Instead, he's prepping to start picking up the relics. In fact, he goes double mosque. I actually like this detail. Underrated in this situation. Most relics are accessible. Your opponent's also got a castle upcoming. So if you want to get him, you need to be fast. Now VortiX posturing. Doesn't want to fight when he sees the men-at-arms starting to come out. Winchester, this is what he's waiting for, information. Now that he has it, it's going to be a hard investment into MAA. And VortiX, the info is gathered. This should be an archery range prep. But now, instead, it's going to be Lancers and Spears, though. This is going to drain his food supplies very quickly. It's really important that VortiX balances his economy for max transition. Because there is going to come a time in the next 3 to 4 minutes with this type of strain where he has to go hard into farms. He has got the berries still remaining. Notice that he didn't go for them first, so he has backup now. But once these are gone, which they will be gone very quickly with the demand and military you have, you're going to need mass farms. Now, the potential option that he does get is VortiX, because he wants to go Lancers, there is always an opportunity to try and play outside your base. Bad news with that, I'm afraid, is there's not really much here. Remember, they're playing Abbasid, so neither of them can go for the boar. And there's a lack of mid-map berries or deer to access. You are correct. He does have 1 more berry in reserve. So VortiX has 2 choices. He either preps for the farmland transition while raiding with Lancers, or he masses 1 big army for a strong push. Right now, looking at the stack up, I think he's going to invest hard into an army. Spears, camel archers, as well as knights. And then on the other side, you've already baited your opponent into mass men-at-arms. Why is this a bait? Well, the Lancers, they can do decently one-on-one. On top of that, VortiX is now prepping the crossbows. This is always my worry when you see MAA being massed up. Also, in the meantime, it looks like VortiX was out of position with the troopers. Away from home, and now the Lancer arrival. This is problematic. In fact, Winchester, he's only got 6 MAA. There's more Lancers in the field. Oh, VortiX is going to make this into a rout. Winchester has to abandon the entire wood line. That's all of his wood production gone. Winchester now without a transition, without a means of getting mass spears. He's only got what is queued, and that is not much right now. You can see that VortiX is going to slow down for the moment, but won't slow down for too long. Dives in again. Could try to build some siege, but he doesn't need it right now. Instead, he's going for something that hits a bit different. VortiX now moving in for the aggressive castle. And a castle drop that will block out all relic gathering from Winchester. Winchester struggling to hold. Camel Riders are going to push back against this double TC5, threatening against VortiX. Just enough to keep him at bay, but now they keep going up. The onus is on Winchester rather to do something. Too many Vs here. The V versus V. VortiX, even though he's on a delay, he went for relics as well. And this is brilliant, actually. He done this perfectly. Because now Winchester has to divert all troops back to base. And he can't even bank the relics. He has no free access to the mosques. Oh boy, oh boy. And keep about to complete is going to keep it that way. Winchester is in deep trouble right now. He at least pulls one of the relics back, but that's all he's going to get after all this effort. Now, Siege Workshop on the front side. VortiX understands this 1-2 punch all too well. Keep to give a staging point. Trebuchets to end the game. Winchester locked in 1 on the Golden Age. Meanwhile, 2 for VortiX. But the more important detail is how this is going to escalate. VortiX is only 12 structures away from Golden Age 3. The production speed he's about to have will allow him to always stay ahead with Lancers versus Man-at-Arms. Spooky. Speaking of those Lancers, VortiX now wrapping around. Looks like he's decided to slow down the cavalry, just going into cheaper units now. And Warlaw is going to be a fat nope. And the reason he's stopping with the Lancers is he sees the Camel Rider commitment. So he's not willing to bait himself into a poor fight here. VortiX, however, is ready for more keeps. He's not going to stop here. He's actually got 2,000 surplus stone right now. Oi, oi, oi. If you could just use a trebuchet to clean up one or two of these lumber camps, it's going to be a perfect keep location near this tree line. And I'm kind of lost for Winchester right now. I don't see how he recovers this. I mean, he's not actually doing anything productive, and he's also not repelling. He's losing a lot of his base, and he's not getting anything for it. The trebuchet's now arriving. Things get problematic. Winchester at least gets the defensive trebs out, but the problem is an aggressive castle like this at this stage in the game, with how weak your economy is, with the lack of access to wood, Winchester doesn't actually have the siege to address this. Speaking of siege, the attempt is going to be a fat fail. Spring goes down. Front line goes deeper into the base, and Vinny Boy looks done with this. All 3 sacred sites now captured for VortiX. Trebuchet, almost lonesome. I think this one's done. I mean, Winchester's going to try to dive out, but it's slow-moving units and lightly armored units. Anything that's fast doesn't have much armor. He tried to transition Lancers. He's going to try to punish, but this keep will always remain standing, and the trades are slowly going to be going against you. And yes, you're right. Winchester does have 40 villagers in queue. He's very ambitious about how long this game is going. He isn't really slowing him down as much as you think, because the issue isn't resources, it's production space. He doesn't actually have enough buildings out to strain his economy to that level. So having 40 villagers in queue isn't as bad as you'd think. The rest is what's bad. And this proxy base extending, all the rats coming out. Yeah, this is just simple now. VortiX realizes if he goes for keep drops and massive spears, he's done this. In fact, is VortiX doing some sort of challenge right now? 4,000 stone. What in the... Finally. Yes, please do. I think it's about time you built a keep. Like, show off your resources. Build 5 at once. Screw it. Why not? Oy, oy, oy. This defensive keep. No. He doesn't have anything against the Lancers. Textiles is his only upside, but I mean, everything else is looking like a downside right now. Keep goes up, but I mean, credit where credit is due. Winchester, never give up, never surrender, but give up and surrender. This is looking impossible now. He's being beaten in the race out to mid-map resources. Sacred Site tick down is continuing. Space is limited on the backside, but the problem isn't using that space, it's getting the wood to fill the space. Winchester's downside has been his wood line. The fact that he played east side but never insulated west meant that he didn't have a backup wood. And that's why he's out. That's why he's done. Like, he just couldn't keep up with the demand because he could never escalate his military production lines, let alone go for counters which required wood specifically. Good play by VortiX to identify this as the weak point. The Kryptonite to Winchester's Superman makes VortiX look super fantastico in this one. This is what I meant about VortiX. This is what makes me think it's him. You know, Luciferon maybe a little bit slow, a little bit more calculated. VortiX knows when to eat the arm off of the greed. He's also a bit quicker on the aggression like this. Great play out of him to take the win off of Winchester.